Good morning. There's no way I'm going to wait for another hour and 11 minutes to start at 4:44. I've been up since a couple minutes after 2 and got 4 hours of sleep last night. Woke up around 12:30. Yes, I laid down in the early evening again, not intending to stay there, but it's becoming habitual almost. When I do lay down at that time, I end up sleeping for 3 or 4 hours. Anyway, uh, good morning again. Title for today: Everyone has a perspective. I find it rather fascinating how two people can look at the same individual and each see something totally different. For example, I've had people tell me, "I see Jesus in you." Then there are those that look at me and say, "You are evil." Yes, I've actually experienced both extremes. And each one thinks he or she is seeing me correctly. The same is true of you and everyone. We only see each other through the lens of our own beliefs, preferences, definitions, and conditioning. So, who is the real me? The real you? If we get into the either-or mentality, which is our cultural conditioning, we are easily mistaken. How so, you may ask? You see, we are each more than meets the mind's eye of others, and even our own eyes. Perspective, therefore, cannot be truths, since they are determined by where we are standing and when. Yes, we can even stand in the same place at a different time and see something entirely new. Ah, the paradox. And I have a couple of mistakes, but I'll correct them later. Oh, speaking of perspectives and how people see me, let me start here. Let's see. This is an image drawn of me from Sandy, who wrote in this little note up here in the corner. "This is for you, beloved Ron, such an inspiration to us all. Sandy." And Sandy lives in Japan. Here's the envelope. See, it came from Japan. And she wrote to me, I guess sometime last week. It said, did the package arrive yet? And no, it hadn't. It was airmail, but it obviously took longer than she anticipated. It came yesterday in yesterday's mail. So thank you, Sandy. But getting back to the topic of perception, she sees me as inspiring. There are many that do, and I'm grateful for that. Really grateful. But there are people that don't see me as inspiring at all. Man, I might be the devil incarnate. Oh, especially to people that think that they're right, and if you don't agree with them, you got to be evil or something. The lady that stood and looked me right in the eye, face to face, one time in the grocery store. I mean, as we came around the corner and we were facing each other, she was a lady that knew me. I mean, it was not somebody that was a stranger, obviously. She looked me in the eye and said, "You're evil." Really happened. Really happened. And she was somebody that was in the same metaphysical group that I was in. And some of the people that are in that group, in my metaphysical community, my spiritual community, have been among those that have said, "I see Jesus in you." And I've had people tell me the same thing in emails and stuff like that since I've been doing my videos. So people that I don't even know but only know me through my videos they have made similar statements. They see the Buddha in me or the Christ or whatever, and others see me as a false prophet and somebody that's leading people astray, and I need to stop doing these videos. Somebody just told me last week. Yeah, he's been cut off, but not because of that, but that's another story. Anyway, how do I see me? Is a question I'm asking myself in this moment. I see me with the label that I put on myself, Paradox Man, because I've lived long enough, and of course Paradox Man goes back to the 1980s, actually, the name, the title. It's probably been going on for 30 years, 80, 90s, yeah, 30 years I've been the Paradox Man, because I recognize what I said in the blurb, that even when I'm standing in the same place, now it's actually impossible to stand in the same place ever, because everything is moving. So even if you're in the same place relative to Earth, you're not in the same place relative to the cosmos, because we're moving very fast through the universe. And it's impossible. It's just impossible. And so is time. Time and space are fluid. But my perception of myself changes over time and over space and over who I'm relating to and what I'm feeling in a given moment, what's going on in my life. What side of the bed did I get up on? I've been all sorts of things in my life. I've done some things I'm really proud of. I've done some things that I'm not very proud of. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've done some things that seem to be the right thing. I've held ideas that seemed right at one time, and then further down the stream, as you might say, it no longer seemed like it was the right thing. I mean, I've used cliches and taught them as if they were true, and then later looked at it from a different perspective and say, but it's not always true. It may have appeared true then, and from where I was at that time, what was going on at that time, but now I've moved a little bit to a different place, a different vantage point, and it doesn't feel so true anymore. It doesn't seem so absolute like it may have seemed then, because it's all fluid. You see, that's the thing. I'm an ego defender. But the ego I define as the present point of view. And the present point of view always changes, especially for growing people. If you never change your mind, God said it, I believe it, that settles it. I was born a Democrat and I'll die a Democrat. I was born Catholic and I'll die Catholic. I was born a Muslim and I'll die a Muslim. I was born black and I'll die black. That's a poor illustration, because that has nothing to do with anything. I was born heterosexual, and maybe I've changed. I've known people that thought they were heterosexual and became homosexual, and I've even known some that went in the other direction. I've never met, well, maybe Michael Jackson went from being black to being white, but oh, I'm making light of it on purpose. On purpose. Because it should be considered humorous. We take ourselves far too seriously, especially when we gain the wisdom to realize that we're always changing. And which me are you going to see? You know, I've been thinking lately about relationships again. Um, I don't, I put it out of my mind much because I don't feel I'm ready, but maybe I'm getting ready. Uh, but relationships, we have an image of who the other person is, but it's not the truth. It's only an image. It's only a projection. A relationship, if it's going to be healthy, you have to realize that we as humans project. We do it all the time. We judge all the time. We have preferences all the time. But our preferences can subtly change. But generally speaking, there's some things that we do make absolute for ourselves. And so a relationship is almost like an agreement to go on a ride together. It may last the rest of our lives, or it may not. And one thing is certain, a relationship will change us. Especially, I'm talking now about an intimate relationship that we share with every level of our being. Body, soul, and spirit. We bring all of us into that relationship. We are willing to share ourselves completely with the other person. Now, the truth of the matter is, very few relationships share every part of themselves. They just don't. And because everything isn't shared, the maximum potential of relationship is not reached. Because in order to reach a maximum potential, which I believe is creating and transforming worlds, not just babies, in order for that to occur, each individual participating in the relationship must be willing to be vulnerable on every level. Spiritually, emotionally, mentally, socially, sensually and sexually. Fill in more blanks if you know them. That's all I'm coming up with in this moment. Everything. Now, we don't even know ourselves completely. So a relationship is always an in-the-moment thing. You're relating right now. And when you're not relating right now, you're probably holding something back. You're living in the past or you're living in the future. In the past, you're worried. In the future, you're worried. But right now, you're experiencing the worry. So share it. Say, this is what's going on. And I don't do that all the time. I don't do that all the time. Sometimes I have things going on with me that I don't share. But if I was in a really close relationship with someone, I think it's important that I do have a willingness and a vulnerability to share something, even if it's something, and maybe especially if it's something I think might not make the other person feel good. Like in the workshop this past weekend, one of the people said to one of the other people, recounting a previous conversation, am I sharing something that? No, I can't share that. I can't share that. Even though I think it wouldn't be harmful, maybe it's not about me. It's about two other people, and maybe it wouldn't be right for me to share their story. So I stand corrected in this moment. See, that's what I'm saying. Allow yourself to be guided, even in relationships and even in conversations, and even when you're sitting in front of a camera doing a live video. It's not going to be edited or changed in any way. It's going to be what it is. Anyway, yesterday after I did my video, I had someone say to me, I was going to have a conversation and show you another level of spiritual development, but I see that you're not ready. And I considered that a judgment. They considered that because I said that there is no separation, that I'm in bed with everybody, which is nothing could be further from the truth. But that's how they perceived it, that I was condoning bad behavior and immoral behavior. I don't see how I was doing that, but that's perception. Do you see? Everyone has a perspective. That's the point that I'm trying to make today. And I'm asking you, I'm inviting you to not take our perceptions so seriously. Don't set them in concrete. Don't immortalize them, because they change. We change. And we're going through a tremendous transformation that will ultimately change everything we know as our reality. And I welcome those changes, and I invite you to do the same. Thank you for listening as I've rambled on about perspectives. Namaste.